Hey, what is up, my peoples? My name is Mr. John, and this is our midweek review. And if you were with me last month, man, we kicked it hard with a guy that I love in the Old Testament. His name is David, a man after God's own heart. But this month, I kind of gave you a little teaser last month that we were going to talk about this guy this month. And this is actually my favorite guy in the Old Testament. I just love the story of Joseph. Now, we find Joseph in the book of Genesis, and I love how, even though the whole story revolves around Joseph and all the stuff that goes on around him, each of the predicaments that Joseph always seems to get himself into never really revolve around him. He kind of is the guy who saves the day. But our story doesn't start off sort of like that, really. We see Jacob, Joseph's father, and his wife Rebecca. They are wanting to have children. Now Jacob has children from other women, but Rebecca is Jacob's favorite wife. It is his wife. He loves her. They're his first wife, and she is desperate to have a baby. Finally, God blesses her, and they have this baby, and they name him Joseph. And immediately, Joseph becomes Jacob's favorite. Now, Joseph is the 11th son of Jacob. Jacob will have one more son by Rachel, and actually when Rachel gives birth to the last baby, the 12th baby, she actually passes away when she gives birth to Joseph's younger brother Benjamin. But Jacob latches on to Joseph. Joseph is definitely Jacob's favorite, and he shows this by giving him this coat of many colors, just beautiful ornate jacket coat, and gives this to Joseph. Well, his 11 older brothers are 10 older brothers, 10 older brothers aren't so cool about this. They don't think it's very cool. They see the Jacob is favoring Joseph, and it says in the Bible that the brothers actually hated Joseph. Well, Joseph one night has a couple dreams, and I think he just kind of loses sight. The excitement of a young man, a young boy, and he tells his older brothers who already hate him his dreams. The first dream is he's standing in a field, and he's like a grain. He's like this tall stalk of grain, and around him are 11 other stalks of grain, and here they go. They bow down to the one in the middle. And the brothers hear this and go, whoa, what's going on here? He's dreaming about this. Well, in the last dream, he dreams that these stars, these 11 stars, and actually the sun and the moon, which represents his dad and his mom, they bow down to him. And even in that moment, Jacob is like, whoa, what's going on here? Why are we bowing to you? And so this jealousy just runs rampant in the brothers. And they decide they're going to kill Joseph. Well, Jacob, not aware of what's going on here, sends his son Joseph to the field where his brothers are, and they're plotting this. And all of a sudden they see Joseph coming up over the hill, and they're like going, there's that dreamer. There's the guy who had these crazy dreams that we are going to bow to him. Let's kill him. And the oldest brother, his name was Reuben, kind of goes, well, you guys let's calm down just a bit here. Let's not outright kill him. Let's do something else. And when Joseph gets there, they grab Joseph and they throw him in this deep cistern. It's a hole that Basically, when it rains, this hole, all the water goes in there, and they can hold water in there, or they can actually, sometimes they put grain in there and to hold grain to keep it cool under the ground. They use it for different purposes, but the hole was deep enough that they could throw Joseph in, and he was basically prisoner. And so even Reuben in this moment, they were going to leave him there. And basically, Reuben says, we're not going to kill him, but they're going to leave him in this hole to let him die on his own. So they're actually killing him. When a band of traders nomads come traveling through, and they see him. And so they come up with an idea that they're going to sell Joseph to this band of traders. They find out the traders are going to Egypt, and they are basically selling Joseph to these traders to sell him into Egypt for slavery. So this is better than killing him, right? We're not outright killing him, but we're getting rid of him. And if he dies, whatever. They're just kind of washing their hands of Joseph. So they take off. Now the brothers have a problem, right? They got to go home and tell Dad. The favorite is gone. So when they threw Joseph into the cistern, the hole in the ground, they had grabbed this beautiful ornate coat. And so they're sitting there and they go, well, here's what we do. We will take the blood of a lamb, and we will tear up his coat a bit, rip it up, and make it look like he was in a fight with some other beast, a lion, something like that. And we will put this lamb's blood all over it, and we will tell Dad that this is Joseph and he was killed by a lion. And so when they take this coat and tell Dad, you can imagine he breaks down. He is in total mourning. He starts to cry. He actually does what they would do back in those days when they would go into these stages of mourning. He would rip his clothes. So on the other side, we see Joseph. They get into Egypt, and Joseph is sold into slavery to a man named Potiphar. Now, Potiphar, he seems to be not such a bad dude. He's kind of a guy who has a lot of property. He's very important, has a lot of slaves. And he puts Joseph to work. And immediately they notice, Joseph, man, he's a hard worker. Joseph does the job. He never complains. He does what he's supposed to do. And he's just amazing. And when you kind of are doing a job and your boss starts to notice that you're doing good work, that you don't complain, you kind of start to rise up in the eyes of your employer, right? Your boss. And so that's what Joseph does. He comes to this point where he becomes one of Potiphar's main servants. Well, somebody else was noticing Joseph too. He was a handsome young man, about 19 years old, strong, loyal. And that was Potiphar's wife. Excuse me. Potiphar's wife sees Joseph, and she wants him for herself, to be kind of like a boyfriend type thing, right? Joseph wasn't having anything to do with that because he was loyal. He could not do this disgrace to his employer, to Potiphar. He couldn't do it to himself. But most of all, he could not do this because it was a sin to God, and he just couldn't do it. So Potiphar's wife comes up with a plan. She sends everybody else out of the house, and she invites Joseph into her room, and she propositions him. Again, Joseph says no, and he is like, she's really not stopping here. So Joseph does the one thing he can think of to get away from this. He runs. But when he turns to run, Potiphar's wife reaches out and grabs the robe he was wearing, and Joseph leaves. And then Potiphar's wife has to come up with a plan. She starts to scream and yell and tells everybody, even her husband, that Joseph made moves on her, that he tried to get with her, and that this robe that she had in her hands was proof. Well, who's going to believe a slave? No matter how loyal, he was not part of the Egyptian family, right? The Egyptian people. So who do they believe? They believe Potiphar's wife, and Joseph is thrown into jail. So I know that covered a lot. But we also see Joseph, he's the main part of the story, but we also see the envy of the brothers, the want and desire to have a child from his dad and mom. We see him being kind of almost idolized by Potiphar's wife and wanted by Potiphar's wife. But we see Joseph throughout this is always loyal to who God is. And we will continue our story next week, and we will cover a lot of ground again next week. So I hope you got your shoes tied and you're buckled in, because this is a great ride we're talking about with Joseph. So verses coming up next. It's a new one. I hope you're looking and watching and learning and then putting them verses in your heart. We will talk to you next time. Have a great day, great week. And I know school's coming up, and I'm praying for you. Have a good one. Bye. By day the Lord directs his love. At night his song is with me. Psalms 42:8a.